Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to join me and ask the question, How are the children? How Are the Children is a limited series podcast done together with Community Change Action and ChangeWire, where we take a look at social issues through the lens that focuses on the most vulnerable, which are the children. And in order to get an accurate picture of how the children are doing in our country and our communities, you need to really focus on one specific issue, which is childcare. Now, I work in public education in Texas, so I work with children every day. However, I don't have children of my own. So for me, childcare has been an issue that has not necessarily been at the forefront of what I'm thinking about daily. But being in education, you really get to see why it is so important, even if you don't have children. So that's why, together with Childcare Changemakers, we have invited several organizers and community leaders to share a bit about their stories, their expertise, to paint the clear picture of why childcare is not only an important issue, but an urgent one that must be addressed. And now we will welcome our guests who come from the states of Texas, California, New Mexico, and Ohio.
Hi, thank you for having me. Well, I'm originally from Mexico, and however, my family lived in several countries. So Mexico and Venezuela, and sometimes in Germany as well. And my mom was primarily my caregiver. I would say my mom and my grandmother. And when we went back to Mexico, my aunts also participated. It was really the women in our family who took care of the children, most of the time supporting each other and helping each other with having all the cousins together whenever possible so mom could get some time off.
Hello. Thank you for having me. My name is Dominica E. I am from Lima, Ohio. I am a family child care provider. As early as I can remember, I had an aunt. Her name was Emma, and she was very kind, gentle, caring, and bright. When my parents would go on dates, she would come over and care for myself and my four siblings. And she really showed me how to be a very gentle person, a very loving and caring person. And she left me here to walk in her footsteps.
Hi, Omar. Hi, ladies. My name's Olga Grace. I'm from Las Cruces, New Mexico. I think I have a little bit of a different story. I don't believe I had anybody who really took care of me as growing up. And I wished for programs like we do now, early child care, that would have made a difference in my life as an infant, as a toddler. So I think that's what brought me to this profession. I'm a single mom. I have 5 kids of my own, and I've taken care of so many kids. Not completely adopted them, but took them in, and they've stayed here for years at a time. And I just became that person that I wish I had as a child.
Hello, my name is Hessie Reagan. I'm located in Rosamond, California. I'm a family child care educator, and I actually wear a lot of hats, so I won't name all of them. Who cared for me is my mom. My mom cared for me. I'm actually a second generation family child care educator, and I come from a long line of educators in my family. We have teachers all over the place, just sprinkled everywhere. And so me becoming a teacher, I wouldn't say it was destined, but when you're surrounded by strong women who get to tell everybody what to do, and that is what you want to do when you're 5 years old, it just comes naturally. That's what I wanted to do.
Hi, everybody. I'm happy to be here with you guys this evening. My name is Juliana Calapenny Brown. I live here in Houston, Texas. I just recently started becoming an advocate with Family Values at Work. Growing up, I had a lot of caregivers. I was actually born in Malawi, Africa. Back there, I had a nanny that was watching me and my other 2 sisters. And then my parents moved to America. And while I was in America, I got to experience both the home-based childcare and a childcare center, as well as my mom taking care of us whenever she could. So I've had a lot of different experiences within childcare.
Thank you all for sharing that. Before this, I thought a lot about like, okay, childcare, why, how does that affect me? I don't have children. I don't care. I shouldn't care. Um, but that simple question of who cared for you really made me think like, oh, I had a lot of people who cared for me. I remember I don't even remember her name, and she's this like mystical, mysterious figure in my mind now, but it was this older lady, who I would call my grandma, but she wasn't my grandma. But because she cared for me so often, because my parents had to go to work, she became someone so familiar to me whenever I was younger. And of course, my aunts, my grandma, all the women in my life, they are the ones who provided that care and were very instrumental to the person that I am today. So it's important for us to talk about these issues because just how they provided that wonderful care for me, I believe they deserve to be treated fairly, compensated fairly, and prioritized as well. With the issue of childcare, in order to really kind of get a clear picture of what it is like currently, we have to understand the seriousness and the magnitude of an issue. We have to really think about what would life be without it, right? And that's kind of where this day without childcare comes to play. So, Dominica, you manage a childcare facility of your own, and you're based out of Ohio. Could you tell us about how you plan on participating in a day without childcare? And kind of talk to us about that day overall.
The organization I'm working with is the CEO Project. It's a care economy organizing project. We are organizing teachers, parents, and providers all across Ohio to take an collective action against issues that impact their economy. One thing that we're asking is that providers and parents and teachers will go to the State House May 13th. The reason behind this is because there's changes that's coming down the pipeline as far as to step up the quality systems. They are removing incentives that will help us in our homes or in our programs. They're taking away the ability for us to pay a livable wage to our employees. And so we are really wanting that to be brought to the front line and notated and let our legislators know what's getting ready to happen. It's going to be very detrimental for our programs.
So unfortunately this year, I wanted to go to the event in Austin for a day without childcare, but I have a big family event coming up. But I just want people to know that even though you can't physically be present, doesn't mean you can't make a change. So what I plan on doing is calling, writing, emailing my local, state, and congressional elected officials to discuss with them this matter, this crisis that we have at hand, and what solutions that we can do. What are they doing to make a difference in this? So that's going to be my part with A Day Without Childcare.
I think when you're thinking about the Day Without Childcare, I think a lot of people tend to get mired up in the big name, and they don't understand that the actual end goal is that children are able to have proper high quality education, that the educators are being paid, and that because if you're not taking care of the providers, you're not taking care of the families and the children, because they're the people behind it. But also families need access. So even if we get paid, these families need the ability to access this kind of these people that are wanting to do this job. And we want that. We want affordable health care for the families. We want the educators to be paid what they're actually worth for the job that they are doing. We want it to be that not just a certain segment of our population is getting access to high quality education and care. And that involves racial equity and gender equity and justice, which also means they need to fix the child care tax credit. But that's the child care tax credit. It actually helped me when my children were younger, when we came back to the States from Germany. Getting that money back, I could actually put back into whatever care or summer program that my children needed to enter while I was doing the job of taking care of other people's children. And stuff. And then, but watching it get smaller and smaller as the years went by. And now that my children are teenagers, I remember how much it helped me with my family, but it's getting smaller and it's not going as far. And they're assuming that families can get what they need off of that little bit of money, but everything's going up in price.
So,
Food.
right. So, yeah, because, inflation is going up, grocery store prices are crazy now. So, what is their reasoning, do you think, behind minimizing the child tax credit instead of increasing it? I know that's kind of we expect politicians to do the right thing, but
I don't think we are being thought about when they do that. It's all about saving money. So everything's going up, but instead of making sure that the people can afford and get to the other side of an inflation, they think that it's going to help save coins to lower their costs. What's actually doing is causing a deeper divide as people can't seem to climb out of the hole that's being built.
The pandemic really put a strain on the economy. And so it was like them giving out that tax credit was for us to use that money to put it back into the economy so it could recirculate. They didn't care about the families, they were caring about the economy. That's what they were trying to jumpstart. Instead of it being truthfully for the families, people with children to advance, instead it was for the economy to keep running.
the pandemic era stabilization funds that saved 10 million childcare slots, it ended last fall. So it threatens the childcare sector again, along with the families and businesses that depended on that childcare.
We saw how much it helped. We saw how beneficial and helpful that was for families during the pandemic. Yes, we might be out of the pandemic, but we're not out of a crisis. We're still within this childcare crisis. It's very frustrating for them to put an expiration date on that.
Anjanette, you're based out of Texas. Could you talk to us about how the pandemic shifted our perspective nationwide about childcare?
During the pandemic, childcare workers were considered essential workers, right? So there was this awareness of, who are we going to leave our children with? And one of the things that has happened since the pandemic is that more and more families realize that it's not just when we're facing an illness, is they are essential workers. They're the ones that helping us drive our economy. That without childcare providers, then most of our families cannot go out to make ends meet.
Pre-pandemic, California had 46,000 family child care educators. Post-pandemic, we only have 22,000. And the reason we only have 22,000 and we're losing them every day is because the state refuses to put money into family child care. They refuse to acknowledge that this is a viable career and that this has real lasting impacts on the children and the families that choose them. Women can't go back to work as long as there is no one to take care of the children. As long as you keep disrespecting the job that we are doing, because that's what this is. This is clear disrespect of our profession and of what it takes to take care of small children and their families, because we're taking care of whole families, not just their children.
There's going to be what's shaping our world, and who's going to be taking care of the current older generation. And I mean, even just, better, a better life for childcare workers, better future for children. But even, also it just helps the economy. There's a report that showed that if we had more accessible childcare, it could boost women's income collectively over their lifetimes by $130 billion. Each year, our economy suffers $122 billion at the hands of our childcare crisis.
If you think about the professions that we require the most training and provide the most money towards, right? You're thinking surgeons and astrophysicists and any scientific type of profession. They're dealing with the future. They're dealing with people. Right now, our childcare providers are dealing with the brains and the emotional health of children they are at the peak of their development. And they are really the ones that are going to build their future, right? We need to make sure that they have the tools, the resources, and the environment, and then we're valuing them as much as we value any other profession. And so I believe that, right now, if you do the math, right, if you try to put two children to care in childcare centers here in Austin, Texas, for a family with an infant and a toddler, they're going to be spending more than $2,000 a month. However, and this is, for most of people, this is all their wages. But for the childcare workers themselves, they're not making more than $13 an hour to provide this care. And a lot of them are making even below minimum wage. And so the system is not working. And that is where, when we talk with our representatives and we go to our local officials, we need to ask them to invest in our society, our economy, and the future of younger generations. And that starts with childcare.
Thank you, Anjanette, for bringing that up, because I think you're right. Oftentimes, childcare can be viewed as an issue that is mainly to the benefit of adults, for the convenience of adults. But the reality is, and the purpose of this podcast is to really get a feel on how are the children doing, and childcare is an important aspect of their specific needs. They deserve to have affordable childcare, quality affordable childcare. And when speaking about children, we need to also keep in mind the most vulnerable children, and those are children with special needs. So, Ms. Olga, could you speak to us about your experience working with specific special needs children?
I'm also a social worker. I have and the reason why I think it's so important to do home-based daycares is for the simple fact that I deal with kids who are mostly in foster care, and who get kicked out of other daycares, big centers who don't have the capability or the patience to really take care of the kids who need that emotional support, who are in foster care, who are dealing with a lot of issues at home. For example, I had a little boy who was 2 years old, and he was never fed food, when he went into the foster system, and he kept getting kicked out of daycares because they would try to feed him at 2 years old, and he kept having diarrhea and vomiting, and they don't allow that. So he kept getting sent home, and finally one of his caseworkers reached out to me. I was able to slowly feed him and deal with what would happen when he would eat, and make sure he didn't eat too much, and just give him that individual attention that he so needed in a home-based daycare, where he can thrive.
Every child deserves the opportunity to have quality and affordable childcare. Relief is possible. Change can happen. We don't have to shrug this off as just the way things are. This crisis did not just happen overnight. It is a crisis that has been developed over a buildup of decision after decision after decision, and we have the power to influence our politicians and lawmakers to start making decisions that will help aid this childcare crisis.
One win that I know about in Ohio, there's a federal rule change that parents will no longer pay more than 7% of their income for their childcare. I know we need to push that. That is a win. That is something that families need right now. We are in crisis. The kids need us and the parents need us. So we really need to go to our state house in our areas on May 13th and have those conversations, because we do not want Ohio to waive it. I'm really wanting this change for our families. It's really important.
We've heard firsthand the real, lived experiences of women who know the essential nature and specialized caregiving that keeps our families and the economy afloat. So now that we are fired up about making a change, how can we join in and take action with the National Day of Action, a day without childcare? What are some ways people can take action on May 13th, or even just on a daily basis, to support childcare workers? And the long-term goal is to make this be a priority to our politicians, to the country, to our communities. How can we do that?
One of the things that people can do is to educate themselves about the actual state of what's happening in our legislature, both at the local but also at the federal level. I know for a lot of us, we might not be able to participate in a local event or go to the Capitol if we live far away from our locations, but we can certainly create awareness and post resources in social media and call on our communities to get better informed about the importance of childcare.
Some ways that people can take action in Ohio is, if you are a childcare provider, reach out to other providers and tell your story. Providers, let your parents know what is going on in your program. Let them know that you're closing your doors May 13th and you're standing up for them so they're able to have availability to childcare that's affordable for them. We're looking for you there at the State House. We really need you there. We should be paid beyond livable wages. And so we need to let them know now is the time to stand up. And I can't wait to see you there.
Here in Las Cruces, New Mexico, we're having events in Albuquerque and Las Cruces. We're closing our doors. I'm closing the doors to the daycare, and we're going out and showing support. I'm actually putting little T-shirts on stakes outside my yard, and I'm been calling around with different providers. They're doing the same thing, so people can know like how many daycares are out here and the difference that we make in our community by taking care of these kids. So we're putting little T-shirts outside that represent how many kids we care in our childcare. And we're putting a sign, where would these kids be without childcare? I have stickers that also say that I am at work because my child is in daycare, and better wages for daycare providers, for teachers. We have those little things going on to try to bring awareness. And of course, we've been talking and calling other providers and just talking about what other changes we can do for that day. But it's super exciting for me.
I don't know if you guys can tell, I like to talk. So my action is actually around helping families and providers tell their stories. The more that we get our stories out there, the better results we'll have with people coming together. Because when you think about all of the times that anybody took action all throughout history, you heard the stories, you saw the pictures, you saw what they were going through because they told their stories. So my day of action on May 13th, I will be hosting a action on TikTok under Perfect Start Learning. And then I will also be, I'm also recording a podcast. My podcast is called Chaos Coordinators, and it's hosted by Kelly Dawn Jones with both of us.
So in Austin, Texas, there's going to be an event called March for the Tiny Texans. It's going to be May 13th from 10 a.m. to 12. They'll be at the Texas Capitol South Steps. So if you're in the area, that would be a nice thing to join. Educate yourself, get out there, host an event, attend an event, just do something so all of our voices can be heard, and then we can make a better future for our children, our nieces, nephews, whoever, for the future.
I want to say again a personal thank you to these wonderful women for taking some time out of their day to help me answer the question, how are the children? They were able to share some of their own lived experiences, whether with their own children or taking care of other children, or just being a part of the fight to battle the childcare crisis, and put things into perspective for me. Like I said before, I don't have kids of my own, so when I first started diving deep into this issue and asking that question, I wasn't sure how it pertained to me really, but they put it back into perspective. We all benefit from proper childcare. The children of today are the adults of tomorrow, and regardless of whether we have children of our own, how we take care of the children, how we provide care for them, will directly affect us in the future. So thank you again to these ladies, and I hope that we all feel inspired to make our voices be heard, share our stories, and let each other know that we are in this together to provide better care for our children in the future.